How to use a gun cleaning kit. Maybe you're new to guns, or at least new to gun cleaning. You bought yourself a gun cleaning kit, but these kits generally do not give you any information on actually how to use them. It just lists what's in here, but it doesn't really tell you how to clean a gun or how to even use this kit. Maybe you have something like this with a whole bunch of parts and pieces. I'm going to tell you what all these pieces are for and how to use them to clean a gun. So today we're going to demonstrate using a Sig P365 just as an example, but it'll work on generally any kind of gun. So let's see what's included in this gun cleaning kit. Let's take out the pieces of the kit and then I will tell you what each one is for. Alright, so first of all we have the rod. This is the handle. And this is the rod. It comes in shorter pieces so it fits better in the container. So these screw together. The rod screws into the handle. All right, and then these pieces screw together. Now this is for a handgun. If you get a kit for a rifle, you're going to have the same thing, but it's going to be a lot longer. There's going to be more pieces to it. We're going to be putting a brush on the end, or a patch holder on the end, or a mop on the end, depending on what we're doing at the time. And on the very end of this last section here spins freely, and that is so when you push this through your gun, it can spin a little bit without unscrewing the pieces. Alright, so we have our rod. These are bore brushes. These brushes are for cleaning the inside of the barrel, also known as the bore. This kit has 4 different sizes for different sizes of guns, so you need to know the caliber of the gun that you have. You'll see the size of the caliber is printed right here. So this is a 40 caliber. This one would be 357. That's the one we're going to need. This one says 45, etc. These are patch holders. These are going to hold the patches that we're going to be pushing through the barrel to clean the inside of the barrel. So this comes in 2 different sizes. Of the 2, this one is going to work the best for the 9mm. This one is smaller, so we don't need that one. Your particular gun cleaning kit might come with these instead of these. These are called Jags. These are for pushing patches through the barrel one way, basically. These are made to hold on to the patch so you can push it through and pull it back if you want. So if you're using a jag to clean the barrel, you would just more or less do this, and you would push it through one way, pull the jag back, and then you would get another patch and push it through. Rather than if you have a holder, you can push it through a couple of different times, which is a little bit more useful, especially for handguns. These are called mops, and these are for cleaning the inside of the barrel, for applying lubricant or applying cleaner to the inside of the barrel. I don't normally use these. I'll explain that later on, but for our purposes here, you're going to want to also pick the one that says 357. This is the cleaner that we're going to use. This is what's called an all-in-one, or a C.L.P. It's a cleaner, lubricant, and protectant. This is basically a gun oil, but it also does a great job cleaning the gun as well as protecting it from rust. And this kit also comes with patches. Cleaning patches are simply squares of cotton that are sized appropriately to fit through the barrel of the gun. Typically what we're going to do with these is we're going to put it into a patch holder like that, put some oil on it, and then we're going to force that through the barrel of the gun to clean the inside. Alright, so this is all we need from the kit to actually clean this gun. In my opinion, you need a couple more items. Fortunately, they're household items. I would get some cotton rags. I cut up a lot of my old t-shirts and use them for cleaning guns. You're going to need some cotton swabs. I use these. These are great for cleaning guns. They have a pointy end and a regular end. They're good for getting in all places inside. But if you don't have those, regular household cotton swabs are going to work fine. In my opinion, you need a toothbrush. You can get a gun cleaning brush, or I actually like to use a dog toothbrush. I use this one more than any other, and that's just because it's got a large end and a smaller end. Very handy for the different areas, especially inside the slide. Today we're just going to use household items that you likely have lying around the house in addition to your gun cleaning kit. Alright, once you have all your supplies ready, now we want to field strip the firearm that you have. Always make sure it is completely empty, no magazine in the grip and no round in the chamber. I always check this 2 or 3 times to make sure there's not going to be any accident. You'll have to check with your particular firearm to see how it is field stripped, but basically you need to field strip the gun into 4 pieces. Some guns may have an additional piece depending on what it is. It might have a pin that holds things together, but this is basically what you're going to have. So first, let's deal with the barrel. The barrel is going to be the dirtiest part and also the most important part to clean. The goal is to clean the inside of this barrel. As you can see, the sides of the barrel are a little bit cruddy, a little bit of buildup. We want to clean that out. The other important place is the feed ramp right here. This is where the rounds slide into the chamber to be fired. So the inside of the barrel is also called the bore. So if you hear a bore brush or a bore cleaner, that's the inside of the barrel, and I may use those terms interchangeably. So to clean these areas, we're going to need some kind of a cleaner. We're going to need the appropriate size bore brush and some patches. There are all kind of gadgets out there to make this procedure quicker, and I'll mention those at the end, but right now we're just going to go through the standard method. The first thing we want to do is get some of this cleaner inside the barrel, and there's several ways you can do that. The way I typically do it is I just drip a whole bunch of oil into both ends of the barrel, and then I'll take a Q-tip and kind of swirl it around. I just want to coat the inside of the barrel with the cleaner. Another way to do it is to kind of soak a patch with oil and then push the patch through the inside of the barrel to get the oil in there. And another way you could do it is to take the mop and soak that with oil and push that through. So for this video, I'm going to use a patch. We're going to get this patch holder, and the way this works is you can feed the patch right through the hole there. Now you can put a bunch of oil on this patch, get it pretty wet with oil, and then we're just going to push it through the barrel a couple of times. Alright, and now the inside of the barrel has got some oil on it. So I typically will just set that aside for at least 5 or 10 minutes before we come back. Let it do a little work and loosen up some of that dirt. Alright, after that oil's been sitting in there, I'm going to put the bore brush on here. And I'm just going to push this back and forth through just a bunch of times, and this is just going to physically remove a lot of that grime buildup that's inside the barrel. Take this back off, and at this point you can also use your mop. I don't typically use a mop. The reason is once you get it dirty, you're going to have to clean it somehow. But I prefer to just use patches and throw them away and get more patches rather than having to clean this mop over and over. So we're just going to get the patch holder. We're going to put another fresh patch on here. Soak it with oil one more time. So get your patches pretty wet. In and out with a wet patch. And that's pretty good. There's not a whole lot of dirt on that. So depending on how clean you want to get it, you can either put in another wet patch, which I'm going to do. Alright, let's put in another wet patch to get this thing nice and clean. And once you get it to where the patches come out pretty clean, then just start putting in dry patches to remove the rest of the oil residue and any dirt that might still be in there. Alright, so once the patches come through pretty clean, which this one's pretty clean, you are pretty much done on the inside of that barrel. Alright, so you can see that that barrel is now pretty clean. Now we want to clean this area here. We want to clean this ramp. Now it did get a little bit of oil on it from the cleaning, but I want to clean this directly and right inside, and then just kind of clean up. Get a couple drops of oil on a patch and just wipe down the rest of the outside of the barrel. You want to get it nice and clean. And what's nice about using oil is this oil coating is going to help lubricate and preserve this barrel from getting rusty. Alright, and that's pretty much all you need to do for the barrel. So you can just set that aside. And honestly, that is the primary reason for all these parts in the kit. For the most part, you are now done with the rod, the patches, and the brush. Once you're done with the barrel, you're done with most of what comes in the kit. So to clean the rest of the gun, I will use the C.L.P that came with the kit. I'm going to use cotton swabs, toothbrushes. I might use patches, but I typically use my cut-up t-shirts. Alright, in order to clean the slide, basically we just want to get some oil around in here in the areas that get dirty. Kind of brush the oil around with the brush to keep it clean. We want to get oil especially into the slide cuts. The slide cuts are these grooves that run the whole length of the slide on the inside. That's where the frame and the slide back and forth on each other. So that needs to be clean. And just put a couple random drops down in here. Do not want to get oil down in this groove, down in this area right here. This is the back of the firing pin or striker assembly. And you don't want to get oil into this hole right here. This is the firing pin hole, and this surface here is called the breech face. We want to clean this, but we don't want to drip any oil down inside that hole. Alright, so get some oil drops in there, get your brush and just kind of brush it around in there. Anywhere that might be dirty, get that carbon build up off of there. Get the brush down inside here. Alright, and then you want to let it sit for a few minutes to let the oil do its job, and then we're going to wipe it out. Alright, now that the oil's been sitting for a little bit, kind of loosening up the dirt, now we basically just want to wipe all that off. Just get in there with your cotton rags or your patches as best you can with your fingers. One thing I find works well to get into these grooves or the slide cuts is to put a patch there and use the bristles of the brush to push the patch down into the grooves and just kind of slide that back and forth, and it'll get in there pretty good. Okay, do it on the other side. Grooves pretty good. Alright, and then anywhere that you can't get using that method, just get your cotton swabs out and get them down in there and clean everything up real good. Make sure you clean this breech face and then clean down in this area here. These cotton swabs that I prefer, they have a pointy end and a regular end. They're perfect for getting down into the slide cut grooves to get the rest of that crud out of there. That's the one. These are the ones I use. They'll be linked down in the description. A lot of people really like these. Then you have your regular side for getting the bigger surfaces. Alright, and if the outside of the slide is dirty, you just wipe it down with one of your cotton cloths. You can put a little gun oil on it if you want, if it's super dirty. Alright, and that's all you need to do for the slide. We're going to do the same thing for the frame here. We want to clean these rails right here. We want to clean all these areas in here, but we don't want to get too much oil down in here. So what I usually do, I put a drop of oil on this rail, a drop or two on this rail. Again, use the brush. I'm going to spread that around a little bit. And then I'll just use the brush. It's got a little tiny bit of oil on it to get down in here. This part's probably not dirty, but you can always wipe that down at the end. So then just wipe everything off. Use your cotton swabs to finish it up. Get in this groove here. Get everything clean. Just be careful you don't get too many strands of cotton down in this area, because this is kind of like a lot of movement goes on in here. And our last wipe. If this area is dirty, you can wipe that down as well, but for the most part it doesn't really get too dirty. That rag was oily, but we're just going to wipe that off. No harm there, all good. Alright. Recoil spring guide rod does not really need cleaning. It doesn't get very dirty, but you can always just get a brush and just kind of brush it down, especially if you see anything build up in there, and certainly if you see any gravel or crud or dirt in there, you want to clean it off. Alright, and that's pretty much it. Now we're just going to apply the slightest amount of lube on here, and then we're going to put it back together. The last thing we're going to do is just a little bit of lubrication. On most of these semi-auto pistols you don't need but a drop or two in a couple of spots. For this gun, one tiny little drop on that rail, one tiny drop on that rail, and on the outside of the barrel you want to put one drop there, but you kind of want to just very lightly spread that around the outside of the barrel. Just the tiniest little residue of oil on that. Now we already cleaned everything with oil, so we're pretty good there, so we don't have to worry about rust too much. And that's about all you need for lube. So just put it back together as per the manufacturer's instruction. And then once you get it back together, you want to work the slide a few times to kind of spread that little drop of oil we put on the rail and get that spread around inside a little. So that's about it. You can wipe it off on the outside if you want. But that's how you use a gun cleaning kit. Now I mentioned there were some shortcuts. The biggest shortcut that I have found is what's called a bore snake. There's different versions of this from different manufacturers, but this is the one I use. It's called a Hoppe's bore snake Viper. You do need to buy one for your particular caliber. So this is a 9mm one for this gun. All this does is it helps speed up the cleaning of the inside of the barrel. So I have a video on the use of this right up here. Basically, after you put a little lube inside the barrel, you just pull this through, and this has brushes built in to loosen the dirt. And then all this material kind of acts like a bunch of patches and just pulls all the dirt and grime out of there. So you only have to pass this through a couple of times instead of doing all that back and forth with the rod and the patches. So that's one of my recommendations. Please check down in the description for more information. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. I have videos for how to clean all different kinds of guns.